Hello, everyone, and welcome to How Many Fingers Am I Holding Up? Featuring two guys getting a tiny bit tipsy, not too much because it's a Sunday night, a work night, and reviewing the 2019 Academy Awards.
That we are, which just ended about an hour ago, I guess I'd say.
Yeah. I feel like it wasn't as, for all the talk of, all the things they were trying to do to cut down on the runtime, and it was about the same as it usually is, which I've never had any complaints about, by the way.
Yeah, there was such an emphasis on getting it under 3 hours or getting it exactly at 3 hours, and I honestly don't know how long it lasted, and that's such a discussion amongst I was listening to a few podcasts today doing their pre-Oscar podcast, and they were like, God, I hope it's under 3 hours. Honestly, if it's 10 or 20 more minutes, who fucking even notices,
Yeah, and I don't know, that's a weird thing for a film podcast to say. I mean, I guess there's a lot of people who like film and dislike Oscars because of how much they like film.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I've always personally been a fan of the Oscars. I've gone into in Goldfingers. I don't think they get it right nearly a lot of the time. But they're just interesting to watch, and there's such a tradition to them. But I don't know. Whenever I'm watching the Oscars, I'm never like, oh man, when is this over? I'm usually upset when it's over.
Right? Yeah.
Because it means the big mystery of the year has been solved.
Yeah.
What's gonna win and who's gonna get snubbed?
Yeah. And
which is what we're going to discuss tonight.
Definitely.
Who did win and who got snubbed?
They didn't even. I just realized they didn't even do Kendrick Lamar and SZA's "All of the Lights." Is it, or is that a fucking Kanye West song? I don't.
All the stars.
All the stars.
Yeah.
All the lights. Dun, 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 dun. Yeah. All the stars. Was there any reason behind that, or what was that about?
I don't know. I don't know if they're. I'm not too familiar with the song. Is there too much profanity in it since it's Kendrick Lamar? Or?
I don't think so.
Or is it just something they thought would be a hard? I don't know, because Kendrick Lamar performs at the Grammys. Maybe he just didn't want. Maybe he just didn't want to perform at the Oscars.
Yeah, I have to imagine maybe there was some sort of scheduling conflict or something.
Mm-hmm.
Just
because he's clearly a good performer. It's not
most definitely
some case of oh well, he's just a recording artist, not someone who can perform live.
Right. And I mean, we're talking about a song that was on the radio for most of this year as well.
Yeah.
So I can't imagine that it wasn't clean enough for the Oscars or something.
And SZA did SNL, didn't she, last year?
Yeah.
She can handle a live performance.
Most definitely.
Yeah, I have to imagine that was scheduling or just them not being interested in doing it.
Yeah, either
I can't imagine the Oscars didn't ask them to do it.
Especially because, I don't know, we were just coming off of, I don't want to get too off track, but we're just coming off of the Grammys, which from my understanding, I mean, it was I think, Drake, Childish Gambino, I think Kendrick Lamar, all of them did not want to perform at the Grammys and everything. And again, maybe that had something to do with just kind of, I don't know, where we're at with award ceremonies and everything. So, I mean, Donald Glover wasn't even on stage to accept some of the biggest awards of the year in music. Yeah. So that's kind of crazy. And I have to imagine that he's an incredibly busy dude. I mean, he was in Solo. We saw this year. I mean, he had to postpone, I think, the third season of Atlanta. So I have to imagine he's a very busy guy. And, who knows if that's political or if that's whatever. But yeah. Let's, I mean, did you have anything going into the Oscars? Any opinions going into the Oscars that you wanted to talk about or anything before we start tackling what actually happened, our reactions?
I mean, I don't have anything necessarily new to add. Just there was the whole sort of discussion of them just kind of like bungling everything leading up to the Oscars in terms of
God, yeah.
hiring Kevin Hart and then him kind of dropping the ball and then just refusing to replace him, and then the best popular film thing that they backtracked on, and then the airing of awards during commercials.
Yeah.
Which I don't even know if they did that this year. Like if they did, then the editing was very seamless, and kudos to them for being able to do two things at once. I did notice that the commercials were pretty long this year. So I can almost imagine maybe they did do that. I'm not sure. But yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if they did. I didn't
because
really
they
notice.
had when Tyler Perry got up there to whatever he was presenting. I think it was Tyler Perry.
Okay.
Right, and he said something like I'm like honored to be presenting this award, and I think it was for cinematography, which was one of the ones they said they were going to do during the commercials. So they must have gone back on at least that one.
I don't know. That was such a confusing. I don't know. I feel like the Oscars, it was just kind of, it seemed like a blatant, like it was being reported on pretty universally that they were just going to take these three categories and those were going to be, basically announced during commercial breaks. And then,
I think they were saying
the
they would
Oscars
present them normally, and then they would they would play that footage later.
Right, after the actual Oscars
Like
had happened.
it would,
right.
No, during the ceremony, they would cut down on, because there's the whole like, all those people who in those awards are like located in the far back of the auditorium, and it takes like 5 minutes for them to walk to the stage.
Right.
So they were going to just do it during the commercials so that they could play an edited version that would just be like, oh, this person won, and then they're on stage and they're giving their speech, and they could cut it down.
Right. No, but yeah, no, that I think that was, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that was what the Academy came forth and said later, that was actually the plan of what was going to happen. I think at first the public kind of thought, and like what everybody kind of wrote these public counter arguments and everything was like, oh, are you going to play these during the commercial, kind of? But I think the Academy said like, no, and they said something to the extent of like, that's fake news, like the age of the internet would lead you to believe something like that. Which
yeah, but they didn't do a good job of controlling the narrative either, though.
Oh no, most definitely.
They
but
totally
also,
lost the trust of the public, like in this.
But I don't
award season.
I don't totally know if I like believe that really. Like I kind of want to be on the Academy's side, but like I wasn't just reading headlines and making assumptions. I was going into all of these articles and kind of reading them, and I think the Academy wasn't really making any announcements or anything. I don't know. It was just a weird situation all around, and yeah, and
oh yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll just leave it at that, though.
And the decision not to have a host, I just thought was super bizarre.
Very bizarre. I can understand.
And like, I thought it was kind of almost like borderline insulting. Like,
yeah,
to hire like Kevin Hart, and he says something, or refuses to double down on an apology that he's given before out of pride.
Right.
Which, I mean, don't get me started on that whole thing again. Like, just apologize, get over with it. Like. Like if you've said something bad like that in the past, then you can't apologize enough. Like you should be apologizing every day. Should be that sort of opinion. But like you couldn't find like anybody else to host. And like I thought like if you want to even think from like a sort of like sinister like PR type point of view, like. You couldn't find like a homosexual host, like to totally turn that Kevin Hart thing around.
I have to imagine,
right? Like,
right? No. I have to imagine that. I mean,
Billy Eichner.
Jesus. I do have to come from it, just from a different angle. just to I don't know. I mean, I feel like he already apologized about it, and then it's just weird with the history of Oscar So White and everything, when it's kind of this board of white people trying to make this black dude apologize for something that he said, and it's like, if you apologize, we'll let you be host again. Like, and I can see somebody who's just kind of like, no, fuck that, I'm not going to do that kind of thing. But definitely,
But I don't think they didn't. He stepped down. They didn't like.
No, I think they set an ultimatum. They said, you apologize or you don't host. And he said, all right, I will not host then. I think that was the whole thing.
But that's not like a crazy ultimatum is my thing. Like,
no, most
that seems like the right. Like,
right.
No, I don't think there's some sinister narrative of like, well, we can't let the black man host the Oscars anymore. Like, I think it's like if you find out about some like shitty stuff that someone said, like, and they're the public face of your whole award ceremony, like, it's not asking too much that they just apologize so that you can move past it.
No, but I think it's one of those things where it's just kind of like, you ask somebody to be a host, a third party says like, hey, there's this about this person, and then this person that you asked is just kind of like, listen, I didn't sign up for this shit. I didn't sign up to apologize or anything. That's just my opinion. But it's just, and then, I don't know, for them not to get like another host after that is very bizarre. I have to imagine that other people kind of turned down the job, and they got to the point where they were just like, whatever, we'll just do no host. And I think maybe Kevin Hart may have been a very mainstream person, and he would have been very commercial friendly, and all of a sudden, big commercial entities became very interested the minute Kevin Hart was, hosting or whatever. And then the minute he's like, you know what, I don't want to do this, I think maybe they were like, you know what, we actually don't have that much presenting time anymore because we don't have that many advertisers. Let's just cut it down to under 3 hours, which was something they said repetitively, which was just kind of like, what else do you guys have? What else do you guys have to show tonight? Like, I don't know. It was all around just bizarre decision making.
Yeah.
And I mean, again, with the Grammys, it was just kind of like, are just like award shows like kind of like outdated? I know that's I
just think they're not doing them correctly.
Yeah.
Like, when I think of like award shows that like left me with a feeling of like, man, like that was just like fun to watch. Like, I think back to like some of like the like MTV award shows from back in the day, where you'd have like a charismatic host where they did like sketches and stuff, and it was just like more focused on like sketch comedy rather than like this sort of like stand-up thing we've been doing lately, where they just kind of get like late night people and stand-up comedians and have them do jokes rather than like high production value like skits,
right?
Either like pre-recorded or live on stage.
Yeah, and
just straight up like real entertainment. Like, I think of like the what was the one, who was hosting the MTV Awards? They did like a whole like Matrix parody one year that was like really great. I remember something with like Jack Black as well when he was the host one of those years. Like, I mean, you wouldn't really want Jack Black as a host right now. I don't think he's a little outdated, but I don't know. I think there's a lot of better options. But let's get into the actual Oscar ceremony.
Yeah, definitely.
And we can sort of tie this in with rather than opening with your traditional like monologue from whoever the host is or their kind of presentation of their style, we open with Adam Lambert fronting Queen, which I mean, I like Adam Lambert. I think he's got a great voice, and
sure,
it was a decent performance. It's just a weird pairing when like Rami Malek is nominated for playing the frontman of Queen, and it just like kind of goes to show how sort of bullshit that whole thing is. Like,
yeah,
because like had this been like the year that like what was the movie, like Walk the Line was nominated, and like I mean, obviously it doesn't work in that scenario because Johnny Cash is Johnny Cash, but like had Joaquin Phoenix played like the frontman of a band, and that frontman was dead, and like Joaquin Phoenix would have performed
Right.
with that band, and like clearly Rami Malek can't handle Freddie Mercury's whole thing, which is whatever. A lot of people can't. But
Yeah,
I feel like part of the reason he ends up winning the award is because everyone is like, oh man, like he did such a good job as Freddie Mercury. He sounded great, because they did like completely brushed under the rug the fact that he was just lip syncing the entire time.
Yeah, and I mean, we have Queen on stage with him, and they're just so not enthusiastic, and just kind of like, even the one guitarist, I don't remember his name, he's just kind of doing the guitar solo, just kind of like, I don't know, guys, kind of, when really the members of Queen are like the people who kind of killed the integrity of this film, who were just kind of like, I don't know, make us look good and make everybody in this band look good and make this a very not compelling film at all. And these are the same motherfuckers up there like trying to be like artistic or whatever. And it was just kind of like, fuck you. You guys wanted to make a puff piece, and now it's up for an Oscar, so whatever.
And I was also kind of like zoning out a bit during the performance, because it's just like a bunch of like the most played songs on the radio, and they didn't really do anything new to them. Whereas like during one of the commercial breaks, they had a really great commercial for the new season of American Idol that had all of them singing "Don't Stop Me Now." And they all just have like such different voices, and they like did it like it almost sounded like a Glee cover of a Queen song. Right. It was like really, really cool to hear. Whereas like this was just kind of like, oh, okay, it's just like a live version of old guys playing their old songs.
Right.
Great music, but it's just like so overplayed. But anyway, it was just like a like splash of water to the face, not in a good way, that like, oh no, there's no host this year. We're just kind of like moving around this ceremony without a guide. But then after that, I think it was
like Amy Poehler,
Tina Fey, Amy Poehler, and Maya Rudolph.
Yeah,
which like I would have been fine if they I guess they hosted Amy Poehler and Tina Fey. They hosted the Golden Globes like 2 years in a row, I think.
Yeah,
and they were all right there. I mean, I don't know. I feel like anything would have been better than no host, but they were presenting for Best Supporting Actress, and who did you think was going to win there, Joe?
So I mean, again, we'll go through all of these. I kind of have the more uninformed opinion. I think I just at least have the opinion of what just your popular prediction site would have. And I think, Mike, if you guys have been watching, Goldfingers, our online video series hosted by Mike, created by Mike, and he has much more, again, data-informed predictions. But again, I thought Regina King of If Beale Street Could Talk was going to win, and she did win. Mike, what about you? What did you think, and what led you to that decision?
The data would back you up with Regina King. Because she had won 2 of the precursor awards, which was the most of anyone else. She won the Golden Globe and she won the Critics' Choice. And so she was only nominated for 50% because she missed the Screen Actors Guild and the BAFTA. So you had like a few, like Rachel Weisz, Emma Stone, and Amy Adams, who were nominated for all 3, but they didn't really win anything. Rachel Weisz just won the BAFTA, and that was it. And then the only other winner was Emily Blunt for A Quiet Place. The Screen Actors Guild out of nowhere. So it seemed like the obvious choice for Regina King to win this one, and she did. So the data prevailed for once.
Nice. And then I think the documentary feature was the next award.
Yeah, this was a weird one. Just from a data perspective, I feel like if you weren't looking at the data, it was probably pretty easy to call just because of the press around.
Right. Yeah.
The eventual winner. I'm assuming you thought the winner would win.
Yeah. So I thought Free Solo would win, and it did. Mike, what about you?
I did think Free Solo was going to win, but up until like the last minute, I was convinced that Minding the Gap was going to win after Won't You Be My Neighbor was snubbed and not nominated. Snubbed from a data perspective. I haven't seen the movie. I don't know if it's actually worthy of a nomination, but it had been like nominated by everything else except the BAFTA and had won the Critics' Choice and the PGA. And it just seemed like it was like barreling towards winning the Oscar. And then the only other thing that had won something was Minding the Gap until finally Free Solo won the BAFTA. So they were tied at a win each, but Free Solo had been nominated for literally everything. So it seemed that was probably the one that was going to win.
Right. What have you seen this year besides?
I didn't get a chance to see as much as I wanted to. I saw Minding the Gap, and then I saw RBG, which I really hated.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I remember seeing like the trailers for that on the basis of sex, and being like, I'll just watch RBG. It sounds like it would probably be more like informative and interesting.
Almost
and then
definitely.
I finished RBG and I was like, I wish I had watched On the Basis of Sex. This was so boring. I wish I had watched the fictionalized version.
Right. Yeah. Especially because we were in kind of I don't know. I feel like earlier last year, or maybe earlier this year, I had watched a bunch of like the Polka King or something. Like I was watching a lot of fictionalized versions of or is that what am I saying that right? Fictionalized versions of just documentaries, or just remakes of documentaries and just kind of I don't know. But basically,
I don't know what you're referring to. I don't know what the Polka King is.
So like if somebody were to make a documentary about something that had happened, and then somebody made basically like a narrative version of just like a narrative movie about that.
Oh yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah, I don't know if fiction.
Yeah,
I said it too, but I don't know if fictionalized.
Yeah,
is
like
the
maybe
right word. It's like nonfiction.
Yeah, just yeah. Okay.
I don't know what the right word is. It's late. Let's keep moving.
Yeah. Are you drinking anything tonight, Mike?
I just finished probably my only glass for the night since I have work tomorrow.
Yeah.
But I poured a little of what's the name of it? My girlfriend Rowan got me for Valentine's Day a nice bottle of gin. I think it's like Orbium. I think
Okay.
it's like it got like a whole like kooky little label that's like circus themed and like all bizarre and whatnot. It's got a bunch of different stuff infused in it. It's pretty good. It kind of just tastes like more flavorful gin, and I poured a little splash of apple juice in there.
I remember you were telling me about
not
that.
feeling like straight gin tonight. Although you probably could drink it straight. It's pretty sweet. It's good.
It sounds good.
Gin and juice for me.
Nice. Hey man, nice. That's a very gangster rap of you, dude.
What are you drinking?
I'm just having the last bit of some Grand Marnier.
Ooh, fancy.
Because I'm a very fancy kind of guy, and that's kind of just cognac and orange liqueur. Yeah. But yeah, let's move right along. So our next category that popped up was Best Costume Design. And I had picked The Favorite for Best Costume Design. And then actually, Black Panther had won. Ruth Carter.
It was my first loss of the night. My first of many.
Did you pick The Favorite as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because it had won. It really could have been a toss-up.
Right.
The Favorite had more nominations, but it had the same amount of wins as Black Panther. And The Favorite had the Costume Designers Guild period, which is more predictive at the Oscars, just because period pieces tend to win costume design. Whereas Black Panther won Costume Designers Guild fantasy, I think they call it. It's got like another subtitle on it as well, but for them it was obviously fantasy. Yeah, so I picked The Favorite and I was wrong. I really liked Melissa McCarthy and Brian Tyree Henry
Oh my gosh, yeah.
presenting that award. Like that's the stuff that I miss from like old award shows. I remember the one year what's his name? Ben Stiller came out dressed as like the full Avatar costume.
Yeah.
Like they need stuff like that. Like I thought in past years the presenters have been lacking. Like they have seemed like not well rehearsed, poorly paired, drunk, like not really paying attention.
Right.
Whereas like I think since there was no host this year, they put better writing into the presenters.
Right.
Whereas I'm just kind of like, well, just do both. Like hire more people.
Right. Yeah. No. I that was really the only bit. And again, it almost felt like I don't know. Like as I watched that, and I was just kind of like, man, this seems like a lot of love went into this costume that Melissa McCarthy was wearing and everything. And I was just kind of like, did she finance this herself, maybe, or was this just like a bit that like, why would only she kind of come with like this bit like on stage or whatever? It almost seems like people who are presenting kind of come with this bit like, I mean, by themselves kind of, or it seems like everybody would come to the stage with like a high caliber bit, you know. It's strange.
Hers was definitely above and beyond,
right, and
in a good way, but it also it made some of the others look not as good. But I still thought for the most part they, like, a lot of times I feel like presenters are stumbling over their words, or like one of them will have all the lines and the other one will have not very many lines, where I felt like it was well spread out. There were some better jokes for the presenters this year. They weren't stumbling over the lines. The pairings seemed to make more sense. And it did, like in past, I always thought like, man, like are the presenters writing their own presentation lines? Because some of them are just like so bad that it just seems like it was just like an afterthought, like in between projects. Like, oh shit, I gotta write that best costume design presentation.
Right, yeah.
It's due tomorrow night.
Yeah.
It just seemed better this year.
Due tomorrow night sounds like the handies of
The
2019.
Oh boy, it's been a long 2 weeks. It's been a marathon.
If you guys aren't familiar, the handies are our podcast, How Many Fingers Am I Holding Up? Very own film awards. And basically, we put them out annually, right around the time of the Oscars or the Spirit Awards, or, and basically, I mean, we put them out tonight, right after the Oscars. So if you guys want to see that,
by the skin of our teeth,
yeah, you can find that on one of our social media handles, whether you search How Many Fingers Am I Holding Up the podcast on Facebook. You can watch our YouTube skit. It's it premieres exclusively on our YouTube, and I'm sure we'll post it on our Twitter as well, and that's at HMF Podcast, if I'm right. Yeah,
you're correct.
And basically we had a week to film and edit it. I mean, Mike, you mostly edited it today.
Yeah, I mean, our good friend and podcast guest, Jordan Weinrich, was gracious enough to shoot it for us. And then he also ended up editing the first scene for me because my computer is not good enough to handle the footage that he shot on his super cool camera.
Right.
And it was barely good enough to handle the rest of it. Because I was like struggling to edit it all week. It finally like started to come together this weekend. And then I was editing all day yesterday. If you follow us on our social media, you saw we were promoting it coming out yesterday. And then we were just kind of like, nope, not going to happen. And then I was editing it all day today, literally like up until an hour before the Oscars, and went to like go to export it and got a bunch of like export errors. And I thought we were just not going to be able to premiere it until tomorrow. And then the Oscars ended up having like long enough commercial breaks, and I just kept coming up to my computer to try and export it again. And I was able to find a combination of changing things that worked. Like I couldn't use Adobe Media Encoder for some reason. I had to just export it directly from Premiere, and I was looking up all these weird tips online, like don't let your computer go into screensaver while you're exporting.
Oh Jesus!
So I set my computer to never lock up, and eventually it finally worked. It might have also just been chance because I think those like frame export errors just happen they don't happen at like the same spot every time. It's just sometimes it can't handle a frame. So it might have just been dumb luck. Either way, it came out, we uploaded it, and it was like pressing like publish like the moment it was uploaded, and it happened to be just right as like the Oscars were over. So skin of our teeth, it came out. It's pretty cool. I'm very proud of it. You should definitely check it out.
As am I. And thank you to all of those who were, we announced it last minute, and quite a few of you came and watched the premiere of it on YouTube. And but I encourage you guys all to check it out, whether you voted, because we put out our nominees for the Handies, or, even if you didn't vote, I think you guys will really enjoy it, because we have a lot of very hilarious parodies of films that came out this year, including Hereditary, A Star Is Born,
Roma.
Yeah, Roma. So definitely check that out. It's very funny. Put a lot of hard work into it. And we even have quite a few appearances from some of our fan favorite guests of this year.
Literally.
Right.
They're there because they won.
Yeah.
But
anyway,
let's move on to foreign film.
Yeah. Best foreign language film.
I don't know if there's a whole lot to talk about in this category, because I think it's one of the most predictable categories.
Oh, most
the
definitely.
whole night. Nothing else stood a chance besides Roma.
Right.
If anyone picked anything besides Roma, they weren't following their head. They were following their heart.
Yeah, definitely. I predicted Roma, as did everyone. Roma won. Mike, obviously you predicted Roma.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if it wasn't Roma, it could have been Cold War, just because Cold War started to pick up steam at the end there. And then just based on like hype alone, I thought maybe Shoplifters could have stole it.
Mm-hmm.
Just because I've heard so many good things about that as well. And that might just because Roma had a wider release and there's more, room out there for people to have negative things to say about it as well.
Right.
But yeah, should have been Roma, was Roma. Data prevails.
Yeah. And then
supporting actor?
Yeah, and then our next award was Best Supporting Actor, which again, I think a majority of people would say Mahershala Ali, which I said, and then he did win. And Mike, what about you?
Yep, you got to go with Mahershala because he won every single precursor award leading up to this: Golden Globes, Critics' Choice, Screen Actors Guild, and BAFTA. So wasn't even really a second thought.
Yeah,
I've been thinking about I really love Mahershala Ali. I feel like he's like the next great actor of our generation. I feel like we're watching the start of the next Tom Hanks or Denzel Washington, where we're gonna see the dude get nominated for 10 Oscars before his career is over. He's already won 2.
Oh yeah, definitely. And he's in the Academy's good graces.
Yeah.
He's I believe it definitely. And
he's classy AF. I always love his speeches. I feel like he's very well spoken. He doesn't try to be corny or anything. He just comes across so genuine. You can't not watch his speech and root for him.
And at this point, who wouldn't want him in their film? I'm sure he'll be getting work for quite some time now.
Yeah.
But our next award that happened tonight was Best Animated Feature. It's Mike has been telling me for quite some time, and it's one of the reasons why it was it was the last film that we reviewed of 2018. Mike said it is a shoo-in for Best Animated. It is Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, and Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse 1. Mike, any additional comments to this, or what? Yeah, obviously you picked Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
It was nominated and won all 5 precursor awards. Nothing else stood a chance. I thought like going into the year before the like actual winners started getting announced, I thought Isle of Dogs was the clear cut winner here.
Right.
But then like with the awards started coming out, and Spider-Man just took everything. And if you watch like Goldfingers at all, I do like the regular wins and nominations, and then outside wins and nominations, which are like the lesser awards. You know, like to take Spider-Man into the Spider-Verse, for example. You know, it gets nominated for like the real awards for like best animated, but then at like the Annie Awards, they have all these small awards for like character design and animated directing and production and all that stuff. And like Spider-Verse was nominated for 14 outside awards, and it won 13 of them. So like it won pretty much like everywhere it was possibly nominated almost.
Right.
So yeah, you couldn't have had a more clear-cut winner.
It definitely. Yeah, and I can't speak highly enough. I mean, if you haven't listened to the episode, I think Mike and I both thought very highly of it. Yeah, so definitely check out that episode. Anyway, moving right along, our next award of the night for the Oscars 2019 was Best Documentary Short. And again, my prediction was period, end of sentence, and then what won was period, end of sentence. And what about you, Mike?
I predicted that as well, but I had not really any data to go on. There's not really a lot of like precursor awards for these shorts categories.
Right.
So the only sort of data I could pull was their like festival wins and nominations.
Mm-hmm.
But those aren't like uniform at all. Like you have like to jump like a little bit ahead, like Bao for animated short is like the clear front runner, being like a Pixar like heart tugging movie. But like those type of movies, they don't submit them to a whole lot of festivals, so they don't get a whole lot of nominations and wins that way. And there's not a whole lot of awards that award shorts. Like the Annie Awards for animated is the only one, and then for documentary, the only one is the IDA. But they're not really a great precursor. They don't tend to prognosticate who actually wins. So I just end up looking at like what the experts were saying, because I didn't get a chance to watch any of these. So yeah, I predicted period, end of a sentence, but not by my own merit.
Right, yeah. And it seems like something I want to check out too. I mean, even when I was trying to impress my girlfriend, and I was like, period, end of a sentence, that's what I predict. And she's like, oh, I think that's on Netflix, have you seen that? And I was like, no, I haven't, but I'll check it out, because and I think Netflix actually like gave them their release and everything, and I think that's fantastic, especially considering the very important content that the documentary presents and everything.
I'm just upset that My Dead Dad's Porno Tapes wasn't nominated.
Oh gosh.
It is supposed to be actually good. Like I think it's one of those like catching titles, but it's about like a kid like trying to, I think, figure out who his dad really was through his like belongings, and porno tapes are one of them, but it's obviously not fully about the porno tapes.
Yeah.
It's just a great title for a documentary short subject.
And that's a banger title. Nobody argues that. But yeah, our next award is for Best Original Screenplay, or at least the Oscars' next award is for Best Original Screenplay. And
we did have Bradley Cooper and Lady Gaga doing Shallows.
They did. Yeah, I should have brought that up. But anyway, Bradley Cooper, I mean, I think I saw like maybe Lady Gaga was doing some sort of Vegas show or something along those lines, and then Bradley Cooper showed up, and I think I watched a YouTube video of that, and I was like, oh dear God, he sounds terrible when he's not, kind of his voice isn't altered, like in the film A Star Is Born.
Do you mean like digitally, or like he wasn't playing the character when he was performing with Lady Gaga?
I don't know. I just think he's not a great singer. or maybe not a talented singer. And I mean, not that
He might just
not,
also not be like a live
It's-
performer. There's some people that are just musicians, but not in front of a crowd.
right. And I mean, I also think he's an actor, and for the sake of the film, they alter his voice a little so he sounds a little better, and then it's not as distracting when it happens on screen, and then they let him do his work acting wise. On everything.
I thought he did all right tonight, though.
I kind of thought he was in the same boat as when I listened to him, during that Vegas show. I thought he was okay. It's obviously it's very different from his performance in the film. But again, I think there's a lot of work that goes into the audio and everything. I went to Go for it.
No, go ahead. No, go ahead.
Okay. Nothing. I just right as A Star Is Born was at its peak, I went to a Whole Foods near my work, and a very excited kind of like high school, college age cashier was like, "Did you hear?" And I was like, "What?" And she was like, "Bradley Cooper was just here," and she showed me all these selfies that everyone took with Bradley Cooper, because I think he's just local, and I think it was around like Thanksgiving, and he was just kind of picking up things for Thanksgiving since his family's local to I don't know. I work in like Fort Washington. I don't know what the local actual Whole Foods is to there, but he was just like picking up stuff for Thanksgiving, and poor Bradley Cooper probably had to do like an hour's worth of selfies with everyone in that grocery store.
I saw a bunch of memes tonight from their performance. Not really memes, just like posts. But people like taking a screenshot of them getting like super close at the end.
Mm-hmm.
And then like Lady Gaga like gives him this like look after they're done performing, and it was like, get you a girl or whatever that looks at you the way Lady Gaga looks at like Bradley Cooper. And I just wanted to be like, I think they both have significant others, so this is not really the best meme. Like,
I think Lady Gaga just broke up with her mans.
Oh no, she's ready to risk it all for Bradley now.
Yeah.
She's off the deep end. Watch, she dives in.
I was about to say, who is... I'm not totally involved with the gossip. I don't know. I saw Bradley Cooper with somebody. I was like,
I think he's dating somebody really, really
does
young.
He have a wife, or is he...
I don't think they're married.
Dating?
No.
Okay.
I just thought it was a funny meme. It's like, like,
most definitely, yeah. But yeah,
unintentionally funny. But yeah, let's get to
best original screenplay. Which again, I thought was gonna be the favorite. What about you, Mike?
I did actually think Green Book was gonna win. It was kind of a crapshoot. Because nothing managed to win more than one award. Green Book won the Golden Globe. First Reformed out of nowhere won the Critics' Choice. And then Eighth Grade won the Writers Guild Original. And then The Favorite won BAFTA. So it was just kind of all over the place. Green Book was the only one that, there was a few others that were, Roma and Vice got all the nominations as well, but they didn't get any wins. So Green Book was the only one with all the nominations and one win. So I gave that the edge. I would have gone with The Favorite or First Reformed as well based on their wins, but I was betting on Green Book. A little kind of sad that I won.
Yeah. No, I thought that was kind of... I don't know. I mean, I brought this up in our kind of chat that we have amongst friends, but I mean, again, in a now deleted tweet from 2015, screenwriter Nick Vallelonga, or is that how I mean, he's basically the descendant of what?
Tony Lip, yeah.
Right, yeah. He seemed to support a debunked claim that Muslims in New Jersey cheered along the attacks of September 11th, which I thought was super lame. I don't know. It was just like, kind of like, man, like, that was fucking, like, debunked, like, almost instantaneously after 9/11 happened. It's just super fucking, I don't know. It confirmed a lot of, I mean, again, this is a little bit unfair for me to say, but I feel like as I found out that news after we saw Green Book and after we reviewed Green Book, I was just kind of like, like, of course that would happen. I was just kind of like, this weird fucking savior complex, and like, of course you would think that kind of about these people and everything. It left a sour taste in my mouth. And, yeah, I don't know. And then when Green Book won for Best Original Screenplay, and I mean, again, because he was just, I mean, the whole basis of that tweet was just kind of like, it kind of started with like, yes, President, I don't even think Trump was president yet, but he was just kind of like, yes, I agree, this did happen, Donald Trump, that like these Muslims in Jersey City cheered as the Twin Towers fell. And I was just kind of like, that's gross, man. That's real fucking gross.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was a little kind of taken aback when that won. But yeah.
I don't know. I'll save my thoughts on that for later categories.
Yeah.
So then we went to best original.
Original
best adapted. We just did best original. We went to best adapted screenplay.
I predicted Black Klansman, which I think was the front runner. Mike, what about you? I mean, in Black Klansman won, obviously, if you're listening to this after the Oscars, which have already happened.
I thought if Beale Street Could Talk would win, but I was not very sure of it. This was another category where it was all over the place. Nothing won more than one. If Beale Street won the Critics' Choice, the Writers Guild of America awarded Can You Ever Forgive Me? And usually you would kind of like go with that. But I wasn't too confident in that either. Black Klansman won the BAFTA recently, so maybe I should have gone with Momentum being the more recent win. And then the USC Scripter Award went to Leave No Trace, which got nominated for nothing else. I have heard really great things about that, though.
Same.
I think that still has 100% on Rotten Tomatoes, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So I need to check that out. But yeah, I went with Beale Street just based on the only one with all the nominations and a win. And I was wrong.
Yeah. And then, I don't know. I hate to fucking... it's better than what it could have been.
What is?
I mean, the best. Let me scroll up to what was actually nominated for best adapted screenplay.
If Beale Street Could Talk, Can You Ever Forgive Me, Black Klansman, A Star Is Born, and The Ballad of Buster Scruggs.
Yeah, I think that really sucks, then. Because, I mean, you can really dive deep into our Black Klansman review, but I think it's a very fictionalized version of events that actually happened. It was very disturbing kind of to watch win Best Adapted Screenplay, especially because I mean, again, we go over this extensively in the episode, but it's just kind of like many very gigantic details of what actually happened in history. Spike Lee kind of changes to make a better film, and I don't know, it's weird and it's disturbing, and I mean, again, Mike and I were talking in a separate group chat, and he says, like, even in, like, when they show Adam Driver's kind of supporting actor kind of reel, he is like, I'm a Jewish American, and like, I don't have like huge, like, he says his piece about being Jewish and everything, which that's not actually part of the story. That the man that is a part of that character is not actually of Jewish descent, which I don't know. It seems even just fucked up, kind of. Yeah, I don't know. And there's again many elements of this film that were again changed from actual events to make this film kind of appear more dramatic and kind of have more of a dramatic effect of what's happening in current events. I agree with all the film's sentiments, but I don't know. It's a mostly falsified screenplay that won best adapted screenplay from a book that would just mostly confirm that most of the screenplay is false.
That's a weird.
Yeah.
I hadn't really thought about it from that. Like, I was thinking of it of like it just kind of is morally wrong to award something that like bends the truth.
Yeah.
To protect like institutions like the police.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. But I hadn't thought about it from the standpoint of like, maybe if it can't even stay truthful to what it's adapting, we shouldn't give it best adapted screenplay.
Right. Yeah.
Like, it's almost like in that case, like, adapted is just, a meaningless modifier thrown on there. Like, it's best screenplay that happens to be adapted.
Mm-hmm.
Not the best adaptation in screenplay format.
It'd be like, I don't know. I want to say like an extreme example where it's kind of like, and Hitler won the war, like, it's just kind of like, oh, I don't know. It's weird. It's bizarre that this film would win or even be, nominated. It's just bizarre. And I love Spike Lee, but I don't think this is the award to give him. But anyway, let's move right along to
original song.
Best original song, which I think what the winner was, which was Shallows.
I think to pick anything else, you must be a stupid idiot.
I did love.
Well, Mike, I'll have you know.
Yeah. I did love what's it called? The performance of what's it called? When a cowboy trades his spurs for wings.
Yeah. That was like low key one of my favorite parts of the night.
And then like Casey Musgraves introduced that, who won Album of the Year and everything, and that's such like a we didn't review that film this year. I think it is kind of this uneven piece of work, just because mostly because it's an anthology piece, and it's just a little jagged, and
it also just kind of literally is what it is. Like, I think there are a bunch of leftover short scripts or pieces of longer scripts that the Coen brothers had, and they're just kind of like, wouldn't it be fun to make these? Let's just kind of sew together a like semi like tied together format where we can do all 5 of these stories and just kind of have a fun time making a Western.
Right, yeah.
But it just kind of speaks to how talented they are that they could just kind of throw together this like pet project, not even really like promote it that much, and then just come away with a few surprise like Oscar nominations. And
it was a Netflix film. I mean, which they've released other films that have done worse that haven't been Netflix films. But Shallows, or Shallow,
Yeah, why is it shallow and not shallows?
I'm not really sure. And again, I wish I had all the information in front of me. I don't really. I know Mark Ronson was involved in the writing of this film. Who I know writes a ton of fantastic work. But Mike, any history on this? Prediction or anything?
It was nominated and won everything leading up. There wasn't really anything else that could have won. You could have maybe gone with All the Stars, just because it was nominated for everything else, and it won a different award at the Hollywood Music and Media Awards. Maybe I'll Fight, even though that was only nominated for 2, but it did win another Hollywood Music and Media Award.
Mm-hmm.
The only one I would say it couldn't have been was When a Cowboy Trades His Spurs for His Wings.
Right.
Data-wise, even though that was the best performance of the night. But, yeah. Coulda, shoulda, woulda, shallows. Let's go to... Wow, was it really Best Actor?
Yeah, it was Best Actor right after that.
I feel like me and Joe are both reading the same, like, CNN live update thing, just so we have, like, the order of the ceremony. I feel like we missed No, we did do documentary. We didn't do animated short or live action short. I think those... Did I scroll past those?
No, I think those are,
After?
Maybe, I don't know. I think maybe this article maybe skips them.
Yeah, all right, we'll go back for those.
Oh, boy.
All right.
Mike, why did you send me this article?
I didn't have time to read every single part of it. Animated short. Again, like I was saying before, I didn't have a whole lot of data. I went with Bao based on its Pixar.
Right. Yeah, and I think that was
It's also the only one I saw.
I had my pen in my mouth. Yeah, I think that was the front runner. I think that was my prediction. And then, yeah, that was also... I'm pretty sure that was the only one I saw as well. And I'm glad that won.
Yeah, and then live action short, again, not really any data. I went with Marguerite based on what I saw from experts.
As did
I
I.
haven't seen any of these, and we were wrong, and Skin won.
Mm-hmm.
Which I feel like with these short films, you almost got to go with, like, because, like, the data that I do have, like I said, is just like festival wins and nominations, and Skin had the least of both categories. And same with Bao.
Really?
So I feel like you got to go with, like, that, because that means it's like it's so good they didn't even think about festivals. They just had their eye on the prize the whole time. That'll be my strategy for next year.
But back onto the CNN article.
No, there's still a few that we're missing. I'm just going to scroll
really?
up. Yeah, I'm just going to keep scrolling from what I have here. Because
Yeah.
we didn't cover visual effects,
Yeah.
which went to First Man, surprisingly, because the Oscars hated First Man this year. And I thought Avengers Infinity War was going to win.
Yeah, as did I.
The only other two there was 3 awards: the Critics' Choice, BAFTA, and the Visual Effects Society. 2 of them went to Black Panther, which wasn't nominated by the Oscars, and the only other one, the Visual Effects Society Award, which you would think that would be a prognosticator, just because that's the same guild, went to Avengers Infinity War. But then I guess First Man pulled the votes from whoever would have voted for Black Panther.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. What did you think was going to win?
For best visual effects?
Yeah.
Or for... Yeah, I thought Avengers Infinity War was going to win.
We were wrong. Yeah, holy crap. This... I guess the article that we pulled up was just like the hot moments rather than like every moment. It's missing so much. I was like, how are we at the actors already? We didn't do any of the sound awards.
Yeah, let me pull up a better article
to give you the quick version, since we're running a little late on this episode right now. I predicted Bohemian Rhapsody for both, and I was
For
right.
what?
Sound editing and sound mixing.
Yeah. I think it was for sound mixing. I also said Bohemian Rhapsody, but for best sound editing, I said First Man. So yeah, and I mean, again, even at some of the websites that I was looking at, A Quiet Place was even second for best sound editing, and
Yeah, I
then
had that-
Bohemian
I had that.
Rhapsody wasn't even until third.
Really?
Yes.
I wonder what they're basing theirs off of.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Because, like, for me, I used the Motion Picture Sound Editor Awards and the BAFTA, and the MPSE has, like, 3 categories. And it's, like, music, underscoring, dialogue, and Foley. And weirdly enough, Bohemian Rhapsody wasn't nominated for music underscoring, but for dialogue, and it won dialogue, and then it won the BAFTA, which the BAFTA doesn't split. They just do sound, best sound. Yeah, so that won too, and the only other winner in the Oscar nominees was A Quiet Place for Foley. So I thought Bohemian Rhapsody, and then for sound mixing, it won both of the awards, which there are very few. Just the BAFTA, which again doesn't split, so it's just best sound, and then the Cinema Audio Society, and it won that. So I thought had to be Bohemian, and I was right.
Right.
As much as I hate it to be.
And then, yeah. So
Original score. I'm just scrolling up from my
Yeah,
Goldfingers.
you know,
thing from the
yeah,
bottom
you take
to
it
catch
from
all
here. Yeah.
Yeah. So original score. Another tight one. I erroneously thought Isle of Dogs based on 100% nominations,
And I
it had
thought,
won a Hollywood Music and Media, because the real snub here, and I'll die on this fucking hill, is First Man, like from a data perspective and from a quality perspective. But like First Man was nominated by the HMM, Golden Globes, and Critics' Choice, and it won the Golden Globes and Critics' Choice. And like you would think like Justin Hurwitz, like all the like La La Land success, like would have favor in the Academy in that section of the guilds as well, and it just gets snubbed for Black Klansman's score, which is like
Black Panther score.
for the win. I mean, for nomination, like, because for me, like Black Klansman is like the bottom of like the nomination list. That's the one that bumped First Man out for even getting nominated. And like the Black Klansman score is so awful. Like I barely remember it. What I do remember of it was just it being like repetitive in like the same theme over and over again, like as if he just had the same like 30-second clip from his composer and he just kept putting it over transitions for every scene and never really during the actual scenes. Like I don't really remember the music ever heightening or adding to the movie at all. It was just kind of there and not really interesting. And like the only thing I can think is like maybe they just thought it was a good representation of like 70s music.
Right.
Maybe,
yeah.
I don't know. Whereas like the First Man score is like really adds to the movie. It's really beautiful and really well done. I don't know. I don't know how you don't nominate that. But yeah. I thought Isle of Dogs, just data wise, I wasn't a huge fan of that score.
Yeah, and then I thought I thought and I hoped both on the same level that it would be If Beale Street Could Talk. Just because, I mean, that's the only score that I've listened to outside of, just us reviewing stuff or anything. But the actual original score ended up being Black Panther.
Yeah, which I don't hate. It's a good score.
Yeah, and Ludwig has Ludwig, I don't remember his last name. He's done a lot of really great
Göransson.
Done
Ludwig Göransson.
Yeah, and I mean, again, it's kind of your typical kind of as you can tell by the name, just kind of like out of Sweden kind of pop producer. I mean, Swedish men have kind of been producing all of our pop hits since, the 90s, kind of. They've just been, putting out some bangers. I mean, including, like almost all Britney Spears hits and everything. But yeah, and then Ludwig has had quite some success. He does all of Childish Gambino's music. He just won for This Is America at the Grammys because Childish Gambino wasn't there. He was there to accept all those awards. I mean, I said earlier, again, in like a group chat that we had, that I thought like some of his most touching music was from NBC's, I think it was NBC's Community, which Donald Glover.
NBC's, and then Yahoo, and then whoever took it after that.
Oh, I think it ended on Yahoo, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Just, but also, I would have loved to see if Beale Street Could Talk win it. I'd love to see, I thought that was a fantastic use of the theremin and just a real spooky kind of moon.
For First Man, yeah.
Right, yeah.
Production design. I thought The Favorite, but
Same.
it was very much a toss-up.
Mm-hmm.
Both The Favorite and Black Panther won 2 awards each. The Favorite winning for Art Designers Guild Period, and Black Panther winning for Art Designers Guild Fantasy. I went with The Favorite because it had more nominations. It had been because Black Panther was snubbed by pretty much everything at the BAFTAs. For pretty much everything at the BAFTAs, rather. But Black Panther came away with the win. Joe, what did you think going into that award?
Yeah, no, I thought The Favorite as well. But
I think my heart wanted Roma.
Oh, most definitely.
Just from production design is one of those weird categories that I feel like a lot of people don't understand.
Yeah.
It used to be art design. But in the modern age, it's more like it does encompass the costume design and makeup and hair and all that stuff because that's under art direction. But it also has to do with like basically set design. And in the case of like Roma, that has to do with sort of like picking locations and creating a set that will work for these truly intricate like shots.
Right. Yeah. And that's like, I mean, during our Roma review, I mean, I feel like I read reviews and everything where it was just kind of like, God damn, like this house in Roma, they have the same plates I used in my Mexico, upbringing and everything. It was just like wild. Even though I really didn't mind the acceptance speech. I thought that was super touching. Acceptance speech of the night.
I thought it went on very long though.
Right. Yeah.
Like I don't know. It made me go like, this was when I thought they were still gonna like air stuff during the commercials.
Right. Yeah.
And I was like, really, like we're like airing stuff during the commercials so that like a production designer can give a longer speech. Like, like I don't know. I'm always on different sides of the fence there because like it annoys me when they start to cut off someone's speech, but then when they don't cut off someone's speech and they just keep going. Like I think I cooked. I feel like it was like pretty early in the night and I was starting to cook my like dinner. I feel like I cooked my entire meal during her speech almost. It was a quick meal, but like I don't know. You shouldn't even be able to finish a Hot Pocket before someone's done with their speech.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, no, they had a bunch of kind of. It was weird how quickly they would cut off some speeches and how they would let some speeches just go on and on. I didn't totally understand the pattern of that.
Yeah,
but yeah.
All right, let's move along. I'm starting to fall asleep, so I can only imagine how our viewers feel. Makeup and hair. Yeah, kind of a weird one here as well because there's the Critics' Choice, there's the BAFTA, and then there's the Makeup and Hair Guild, which splits it up really weirdly. They have like contemporary makeup, contemporary hair, period makeup, period hair, and then special effects makeup. I thought Vice, based on Critics' Choice win, period makeup win, and then makeup win for special effects. And like Border was not really competition at all because it was a total surprise nomination. And then Mary Queen of Scots only had period hair as a win. So I thought Vice, and I was right.
Yeah. I think, yeah, I also think Vice, and I think Vice was the front runner pretty much. Yeah. I mean, yeah, even from just our, reviews and everything, I think when we reviewed Vice, we were very impressed with the makeup and everything. I mean, obviously, turning Christian Bale into Dick Cheney, it's a very impressive task.
What do we got next? Film editing. Did I get this right? I gotta look at my list. I feel like this is one I got wrong. Yep, I got this wrong. I have to look up who actually won for this.
Let's see. Bohemian Rhapsody won.
That's right.
For film editing, and I thought Vice was going to win.
I picked the favorite. Vice was neck and neck. They each had one win, both 100% of the nominations. The favorite just had more outside wins and more like award season momentum. So I thought the favorite might pull it off. But I was not going to be surprised if Vice won either, just because that's such an editing heavy movie. Like, editing literally makes that movie into what it is, whether you like that or not. Whereas, like, Bohemian Rhapsody, I think I saw someone on Twitter saying, like, oh, it won for film editing because they had to, like, try to salvage a piece of, like, dog shit filmmaking that was, like, directed by two directors, one of whom was thrown off set. Like,
yeah.
The fact that they were able to make, like, a salvageable movie out of that earns them the Oscar, essentially.
Most definitely, yeah.
They had a more succinct way of saying it, but I thought that was a funny sentiment. Yeah. We did costume design, right? Yeah, Black Panther. Cinematography. I had Roma, based on a couple of wins.
Yeah, I had Roma as well. And then Roma actually won. Yeah. Which, again, surprising. Alfonso Cuarón was the cinematographer, the official cinematographer of Roma. Yeah, I think I just watched like a very impressive. I mean, it wasn't super insightful, but I think they have a picture that they reference at one point of how they shoot that beach scene. And again, like we talked about in that episode, as we predicted, it's a very extensive rig. So yeah, it's very. I don't know. It's definitely the most easily the most impressive cinematography of the year. No contest, in my opinion.
Yeah. And nobody would contest, not even the Oscars. Let's see, we did the screenplays, we did supporting actress. All right, now we're actually caught up with the CNN article. Not that it matters now, because there's like 4 awards left.
Right.
Best actress. Oh, this one was fun. So this, I predicted Glenn Close, because she had won. She'd been nominated for 100% and won 3 of them. Golden Globes, Critics' Choice, Screen Actors Guild. And one of those was a tie with Lady Gaga for Stars Born. Excuse me. Who was like the front runner going into awards season before the awards started actually getting doled out. So I thought that was like revealing. I thought that was the award season kind of showing us like, oh, like even if Lady Gaga isn't winning these other awards, she's clearly the number 2. in everyone's mind, or close to the number one.
Right.
And then after winning like the Golden Globe comedy, Olivia Colman won the BAFTA, and that sort of put her above Lady Gaga in my mind. So I had Glenn Close 1, Olivia Colman 2, and then Lady Gaga 3. But still thought that like Glenn Close was a pretty sure thing. And what did you think going into this award?
Yeah, I thought the same. I thought Glenn Close for The Wife.
Yeah, like I even saw like a tweet from Weird Al Yankovic, who just had, I think it was Weird Al, yeah, had a tweet that was basically like, why wait? Congratulations. It was like a couple hours before the ceremony. It was like, why wait? Congratulations to Glenn Close, Mahershala Ali, Regina King, like all the people that we thought were like the shoe-ins for each of their awards categories. And then I thought it was funny that Glenn Close ended up getting upset by Olivia Colman, who gave a really great speech because she's just like kooky and like zany and all over the place, and she can't like stay on one train of thought for more than like 5 seconds. It was really cute.
Yeah, no, she's definitely very charming. I was delighted to be to be wrong. And again, I don't think either of us watched The Wife either.
No.
But from what I've heard, it's like an okay movie with a really great performance. And The Favorite seems like a really great movie with a really great performance. So I was glad that kind of came out on top.
Yeah, and that she was my actual favorite performance of the year, Olivia Colman. I remember saying in our review of The Favorite, check that out with Scout Tafoya, but like the one scene where she starts crying while watching the people dance, like, just give her the fucking Oscar right then. And I said that like jokingly, thinking at the time that like Lady Gaga was going to come away with the win. I think I even say that in the episode, and then ended up thinking Glenn Close is going to win because she's winning everything. And then it all comes back full circle, and Olivia Colman did get the fucking Oscar for that scene. So the Oscars got at least one thing right tonight.
And I wouldn't even mind, for the record, if Lady Gaga won. I still thought, in retrospect,
you're an apologist.
I still...
You're, what do they call the Lady Gaga fans? Monsters?
I'm a little monster or whatever. I thought she actually had a pretty good performance in Star is Born. My God, the fucking wind is ripping around here. I can hear it outside my windows. I hope you guys can't pick that up on the mic.
Oh, we'll find out.
Wind. Fucking storming.
The winds of change, Joseph.
I guess so.
Based on the results of tonight's Oscars.
All right.
Let's move on to Best Actor. I thought going into this, Rami Malek.
As did I.
Yeah,
Rami Malek.
A lot of people thought that.
And
like beginning of the awards season, like going in, I thought Bradley Cooper. Then when the awards started getting handed out, I thought Christian Bale, and then Rami Malek came away with the Screen Actors Guild and the BAFTA Awards wins late to have 3 out of 4 and nominated for all 4. So he seemed like the clear-cut winner going in, and we were right, unfortunately. I like Rami Malek. I just cannot stand Bohemian Rhapsody, and I don't think his performance in it was even that great.
Yeah. Neither do I. And I mean, again, it might not even be a fault of his own. It might just be a fault of the fucking moron who put those fucking goofy ass teeth in his mouth. That just also reminded me of, I don't know if I've said this out loud on the podcast or whatever. I've just been watching like a lot of interviews with Bradley Cooper where Bradley Cooper has just been like, yeah, I don't know, it's just been a real like weird upset that I wasn't directed as best director. Just like, shut the fuck up, Bradley Cooper. It's your first time directing. Like, calm the fuck down. He's just like,
I mean,
he was just like, I guess I've been dealing with it a lot, but just drink a lot of tea. Maybe just not taking the Oscars so seriously. Maybe it was just kind of like, oh man, like as if like fate had decided that he would. When I feel like really it was just like A Star Is Born was just so early in the Oscar season that everyone was just like, well, this is the first film I've seen, so this is the best film I've seen, you know, kind of. And then other films came out, things kind of got adjusted, and I don't know, I think that got kicked out at the last minute.
Well, I think there was hype around it before it even came out. Like, just on paper, it seems like, well, here's something to pay attention to. I don't know, I can kind of relate to that just because, like, I mean, the people who make these movies, like Bradley Cooper, does not view A Star Is Born the same way that we do, whereas like we see some of like the corny aspects of it. Like, he obviously takes it very seriously. It's his baby. It's something that he cared very much about. So like to make a movie like that ends up being pretty good in the end, and then buzz starts coming out about it, and then even like data wise, everything starts looking like you're heading for an Oscar nomination for it. Like, he was nominated by every single precursor award for it. So by like from a data perspective, it was a snub that he didn't get nominated for directing. And so like I can kind of put myself in his shoes, whereas like you make a movie that you're really proud of, the data seems to point towards you're going to get nominated for an Oscar. You're on this kind of like fairy tale ride of an award season, and then like the bad news comes out that you didn't actually get like nominated. I don't know. I can kind of put myself in the shoes of like maybe being a more out of touch person when something like that happens, and not having the know how to handle an interview without like bemoaning the fact that you didn't get an Oscar nomination.
Right. Yeah.
Because I mean, I see it more as like he's kind of just like speaking what like everyone else is probably thinking. Like,
yeah,
like I'm sure there's tons of other people who have thought internally like, what's fucking bullshit that I didn't get nominated this year. Like Damien Chazelle or Barry Jenkins or people like that.
Oh, most definitely.
They're never going to say it outwardly, but they see stuff like really, like Vice is getting nominated for Best Director, not my shit.
Yeah, and that has to be such a weird kind of. I've always thought about that with like all of these Oscar prediction sites, and then I mean even us starting our own Oscar prediction video series, Goldfingers. Check it out now on YouTube. But just to kind of be maybe like as a nominee or a potential nominee to be like watching, and for that not to happen, even though these prediction sites would tell you otherwise. But yeah.
But yeah, did we cover Best Actor? Yeah, Rami Malek won.
Yeah.
We both predicted that, I believe. For Best Director, I also thought Alfonso Cuarón, because he won every single precursor award. And what did you think, Joe?
Yeah, did we already cover this?
No,
yeah.
We just started talking about Best Director via Bradley Cooper for A Star Is Born from Best Actor.
Yeah, no, then I also thought Alfonso Cuarón.
And he did win. Yeah, you're thinking of, we talked about him for cinematography.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they had a kind of neat fact that he's the first person to be nominated like individually for 4 separate awards.
Right.
He's nominated for Best Director, Best Cinematography, Best Screenplay, and then I guess he's technically the producer as well, so he gets nominated for Best Picture for Roma if hadn't won.
Yeah.
Like because usually like the guilds won't allow you to do that many jobs at once. I guess this is made outside of the guilds if he's in Mexico. I don't know if that's exactly how it works, but like, because I remember what's his face, Jeremy Saulnier, who usually does the cinematography for his movies. What was the most recent one? Not the most recent one, but I guess it was Green Book. It was like the first time that he did like a guild movie, and he couldn't do the cinematography because he was the director, and they only like let you hold one position at a time for guild insurance reasons or something like that.
Right. Yeah.
Or I guess just to guarantee jobs to guild members, like so that you can't like Alfonso Cuarón it and hog all the jobs on the film set.
Right. Yeah. Green Room, I think.
Yeah, that's the one I was thinking of. Anyway, that was Best Director. Let's close out the night on Best Picture with What the Fuck?
Yeah, so I think, I predicted Roma would win, and
Yep.
as the Oscars were happening, even though Mike and I couldn't be in the same room just because of some handy's difficulties, Mike started to say, like, prepare yourself perhaps for a Bohemian Rhapsody or, a Black Panther win. Just because I think it was just anything was up for, they were just popping up a lot in the awards, yeah.
Yeah, they were starting to win some upset awards in early categories, so it seemed like, maybe the general makeup of the voting audience of the Academy has more of an affinity for those films than we thought. And then it went in a totally different direction.
Right.
Yeah, I also thought Roma, just based on not the most nominations, because I think the only ones that were nominated for everything were A Star Is Born and Black Klansman, weirdly. But I think this was the second most third most nominations, and the most wins, which is what I was really basing it on. It won the BAFTA, it won the DGA, it won the Critics' Choice. I feel like I'm missing something there. No, really just those three. It was nominated for less. It was the whole weird thing with it being a foreign language film, and some of those early awards, like the Golden Globes, you can't be nominated in the main categories and foreign language at the same time. It couldn't get nominated for the AFI because they don't allow foreign language on their American Film Institute whole thing, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, it was not Roma. It wasn't Bohemian Rhapsody. It wasn't Black Panther or The Favorite. It was Green Book.
Green Book, yeah.
Yeah, which won, I think, 2 awards this season. The Golden Globe and the PGA, I think.
Right.
Yes, I was right. And yeah, Green Book is such a weird... I really wish it didn't win.
Yeah.
And not because I think it's like the least deserving movie, because like there's definitely could have been worse movies to win, like namely Bohemian Rhapsody. I think I would have been pretty upset if Vice won. Definitely pretty upset if like Black Klansman won. I was saying in the group chat, like, as much as I didn't really love Black Panther, I think I would have been more okay as the award season went on with like I started like trying to steel myself for it, and I think I would have been more okay with Black Panther winning, just because it's so culturally important that it would have been like, all right, well, none of these were the best movie, but at least we awarded something that mattered. But Green Book, like,
there was
I don't know.
There is a lot happening with Green Book. Just as somebody during our review of it, I think I was already just kind of like, oh, this seems like white kind of like saviorism, like even just during the narrative of it, and that's strictly my opinion, kind of, and everything. And then, even before that, I think on the episode we talk about Viggo Mortensen saying the N-word during the fucking premiere of this film on stage, and it was just kind of like, we know you meant well, kind of thing, but it's also like, you're a white guy, and then it's just kind of like the Peter Farrelly of the Farrelly brothers, had to publicly apologize about his kind of like sexual pranks, which I think the media has referred to them as, which I think is just, I think it's way more serious than that, to kind of flash your penis or genitalia at female actresses. I think that's horribly fucked up. I don't think you should fucking have a job after something like that. And then again, so I think that's basically just sexual harassment, at the lightest term. And then again, to Nick Vallelonga, or whatever his name is, had a pretty Islamophobic opinion that he made pretty public or whatever. So this triple threat of just terrible things happening, and somehow the film prevails and wins Best Picture. So it's right up there with I don't know. It was just kind of like it became even just the worst kind of film to win, even over Bohemian Rhapsody, which, I mean, Bryan Singer.
I don't agree with that.
Okay, Bryan Singer's terrible, but he got fired from the film.
Not for the terrible reasons, though, just for being a bad director.
Right, but it's just like all these people got to go up on stage and be like, "Hey, thank you, Academy, we won." Like it was just kind of like Bryan Singer wouldn't have gone on stage. It would have gone to the deserving people. But I think we got to see like 3 different people.
See, here's my piece. Yeah. Here's my piece about it.
I've talked way too long enough.
Bohemian Rhapsody is actually a dog shit movie.
Oh, right, yeah.
Even if Bryan Singer was like an actual saint, like a beautiful human being who'd done nothing wrong in his life, Bohemian Rhapsody is a shitty movie. It's fucking awful. So like it would have been, insulting on numerous levels for that to have won. Whereas like Green Book, yes, there's definitely some really unfortunate things about some of the people who created the movie. But there's also some really good people involved in the making of the movie, and regardless, they did come out with a good product. Like half of the like complaints that people have about like Green Book have nothing to do with the Muslim tweets or the penis flashing or the saying the N-word at a press conference. They have to do with like Green Book just kind of being like a cheesy, corny, cookie cutter view of like racism, kind of. And I don't know, my view is kind of like that may make something not worthy of winning Best Picture, and I definitely agree with that, or really of winning any awards, but that doesn't make something a bad movie.
Yeah, and I
don't think you can. No, go ahead.
Okay, yeah, no, I'll even come around. It's something that I said earlier today. I said, it was kind of this trend. I was listening to a lot of kind of pre-Oscar movie podcast. I follow a lot of movie podcasts, and I'm checking back in with them during this time of the year, whether they're kind of doing these like pre-Oscar prediction kind of podcasts and everything. And like I would cringe sometimes when they would be like, "Oh, fucking like anything but fucking Green Book or like fucking Bohemian Rhapsody, like, oh, like anything but them can win. But if it's one of those 2 movies, I'll fucking throw myself off a bridge, dude." Like, it's just kind of like, but I would hear the reviews of both of those movies, and they would both like genuinely like love those movies. It was just kind of the same with like, if you guys are on like the Letterboxd community, I think it was like people loved Bohemian Rhapsody, and then like all in like 1 or 2 weeks, I recently it just became like very cool to kind of like, the people who had like 5-star reviews of Bohemian Rhapsody, was very cool to kind of like change your review to like a 1/2 star, which is like the lowest I think you can go on Letterboxd. And it was just, to me, that's a little like, I'm all about change. I'm all about like, hey man, like opinions are forever changing, and feel free to change that or whatever. But and this is where it gets really weird. It's just kind of like you can change it to have like a political stance kind of, and then but like it's just kind of like if you watch Bohemian Rhapsody and you thought that was fucking perfect, like a lot of those people thought it was, like I heard people say that on podcasts, and then I heard people like kind of write that out on like Letterboxd, and then to change that to like a bottom like review, it's just kind of like, what a fucking wide jump. Like, there was still something there for you, right? Like, in Green Book or in Bohemian Rhapsody, like, even though these films are attached to something, like, weird and just downright wrong to agree with, like, what these people do, it still kind of comes down to, like, man, like, still, like, side with the art, like, you know, and not these people. I don't know. It was just...
Yeah, and I think with Green Book, it was like one of the first times that I became really conscious of like I said, there's definitely some really unfortunate things about people involved in the making of this movie, and or just unfortunate people involved in the making of this movie. But at the same time, it just definitely seemed like there was a like agenda to like assassinate this movie, like maybe people with motives tied to maybe other movies in this category could sense what we maybe didn't sense early on enough about how strong a contender it was, because it was like when I think it was either right before or the day that the Oscar nominations came out, all of that stuff started coming out. Like, people were airing their articles about like, oh, Peter Farrelly used to show his dick off, and like that tweet resurfaced from the Nick Vallelonga guy. Like, it was like people had that on deck just waiting to send it out about Green Book. And then they also had a lot of criticisms of it that I don't think are truly valid. Like, there was this one that was going on that was like, they didn't consult the family of Dr. Shirley for the movie, when the writers of the movie consulted Dr. Shirley himself, like, for hours and hours of interviews that were done while he was alive. And his whole thing was like, you know, you can make this movie, but just don't make it until I'm dead. I don't want to be alive when it comes out.
Right.
So they just, you know, they did these interviews, you know, a long time ago and then held on to it, and then it comes out. So, like, that's not really a valid criticism if none of his family members are in the movie. The movie's about Dr. Shirley, and they interviewed Dr. Shirley for hours. Like, that's just clearly like framing stuff to make it look negative about the movie. And there was a bunch of other ones that were just like, come on, like, you guys are stretching to turn this into whatever. And it made me kind of realize that, like, oh, we do kind of live in like an echo chamber of like film criticism as well, where like we only get like the loudest voices of like liberalism for film criticism that get, like, you know, retweeted on Twitter or the most likes on Letterboxd because they're like controversial in some way or
Right.
bold or brave. You know, we're not really getting the sort of like middle of the country that watches a movie like Green Book and goes, man, that made me feel really good and made me think some different things about whatever. Like, I'm not going to delude myself into thinking that Green Book is going to end racism in any way, but there's a lot of people who are going to watch Green Book and not even going to know who the fuck Peter Farrelly is. So it's not even really going to matter that he flashed his dick to a bunch of people. You know, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's why something like Green Book wins. And again, I don't think it's worthy of winning, because I don't even think on merit alone is it the best movie this year. I think you're a fool to look at something like that next to Roma or The Favorite and not put those movies above it. But I think there's definitely a sort of middle of the country vibe going on here. And I don't know how that exactly works, because they're obviously not the voting base of the Academy, you know, geographically speaking. But I don't know. I think it is kind of that, like, almost like that Trump effect thing where we have all these like loud voices saying, oh, like, Trump is so stupid and Hillary's going to win. And then we have all this sort of like unspoken silent majority that actually votes and decides what goes on.
Right, yeah. It felt weird to like read articles about like Mahershala Ali, like, you know, apologizes to the family of like the what is his name that he portrays in
Dr.
Green
Shirley.
Book. Yeah, Dr. Shirley. And it's just kind of like, man, like, he didn't sign up for that. Like, he signed up to play a character, and I don't know. It's also strange.
Yeah, and they also, like, they try to frame it like it's just a bunch of white guys making a movie, when Octavia Spencer is pretty involved in the making of the movie too. And whenever they have anything negative to say, they conveniently leave her name out of it. Like, I don't know. I just feel like the criticism should be thrown where it's rightfully due. and leave it out where it's not.
Right. No, I mean, but to some extent, I will agree that the perspective that this is written from could have used a little help. From some dude who isn't white. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I definitely still have my problems with it. But it didn't deserve, base, like what I'll come out on is like, if you fucking love this film and then you came, and then you found out some stuff about it, like I don't think you should totally drastically change the score of your film. No, your thoughts on the film. I don't know. I kind of still stick by that. I think the last time we've just jumped light years since discussing like Cafe Society or something by Woody Allen, and it was just kind of like like maybe we should judge the art separately from the creator of the art, and that has become a less favorable opinion, I guess. And I still think, I don't know, if you see art and you like it and that speaks to you, I don't know. I still think you should like enjoy that, and I think you should still like be like, oh, I don't know, that's like one of my favorite movies of the year. I don't think you should be, if you really fucking liked Bohemian Rhapsody, I don't totally see a big problem with celebrating that film, even if like that plays a huge part in our on this podcast like decision to like not like. I just think that film's shitty, Bohemian Rhapsody. But again, I don't know. It's just kind of like, if you like that film, don't be afraid to like that film. Like, it may have been made by a fucking terrible person, but it's still, art. I don't know. I don't want to get too deep into like this.
Well, I think that the thing that is different is that like saying that you like a movie is a lot different than awarding it the best picture of the year award, or even nominating it in that category,
right?
Like if like people that I know on Twitter are going to talk about really liking Bohemian Rhapsody, that's fine. Like, you watched a movie and you enjoyed it. That's what movies are for. If you can watch stuff and be I don't want to say ignorant because that makes it sound like a negative thing, but if you can be unaware blissfully of what goes on behind the making of a movie, where like I feel like I have so many movies ruined for me because I'm just in tune to who made what and what the beef is between everybody and what's the the down low and everybody, like that must be much more pleasant than what we go through, where I feel like we're internally canceling people all the time. So like, yeah, like if you can watch Bohemian Rhapsody and enjoy it just as a viewer of movies, that's fine. It's much different for the Oscars to be like, this is one of the best movies of the year, because it's like awarding the people who made it.
Mm-hmm.
And when they are involved in like questionable stuff, like that gets weird.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think Green Book is a case of it. It's not always that easy. Like, for me, it's very easy to cancel Bohemian Rhapsody because it's a shitty movie and it's made by shitty people. It's much tougher when shitty people get together and make a pretty decent movie.
Right. No, definitely. Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, let's
I think that's about it.
That's that's about the 2019 Oscars. Overall, it's been a weird year for the Oscars. I mean, we, again, like you said at the beginning, they were proposing a whole new category of best popular movie, and nobody was really about that. And then yet they made these decisions about giving awards out during commercials and everything. Yeah.
Little did we know they were trying to save us from all these like popular films winning awards.
Yeah, well, kind of. I don't know. It's just I don't totally know. I don't really know what goes on behind the curtain.
Because I kind of feel like if you had
really.
done like if you had split Best Picture and Popular, you maybe could have had like Bohemian Rhapsody would have been in Popular. You might have even been able to put Green Book, although I don't know if it would be based on box office or whatever. But I just feel like had you been able to get some of those other ones out of there, you might have had an easier time finding like Roma or The Favorite winning in the Best Picture category.
Yeah, maybe. I think it just would have been a lot of the same, and then we would have seen like what's it called? Like we would have seen fucking like for best popular picture, I'm sure we would have seen like Black Panther, Avengers Infinity War, Incredibles 2, Jurassic Park Fallen World, and Aquaman or something.
Yeah.
You know, it was just like I don't know. And then like besides that, I don't think we would have seen that many different things happening. I don't think people wanted to go to the Oscars where Jurassic World, Fallen Kingdom, and Aquaman were like Academy nominees.
Yeah.
I don't know. So obviously they spoke out about like against that. So
this is just reminding me that like when that Best Popular award thing came out before they like canned that whole idea, there was a bunch of people sharing that scene from Mad Men where Peggy's like mad that she didn't get the award for the one like ad that she worked on, and Don got to accept it, and she's like, and you never say thank you, and he's like, that's what the money is for. Like as if like the movies that win like the best, or that beat the box office every year need to be at the Oscars. That's what the money is for.
that's really good. Yeah.
It's a great comparison. But anyway, on that note, I think we can close out the discussion of the Oscars. We'll just leave you with a reminder to go check out the Handy Awards. And this is now officially the end of the 2018 film season for us. I don't know if we discussed it in our Skype episode, but we are switching to kind of a different format for next year. We're not going to be weekly anymore. We're going to be bi-monthly, I think is the term. So basically just every other week.
Right.
Yeah. We're a little burnt out. Daddy needs a break so we can produce more quality content.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of details we still need to discuss and everything. And because there will be additional episodes. I don't know. Yeah, I think it comes with
more news to come.
Right. Yeah, the accompany of announcements and everything. I think the podcast will be changing. There will just be more different stuff coming. Your more traditional reviews will be coming a little less frequently. Yeah.
And I think our next review to start the 2019 season should be March 14th, the Thursday.
Yeah.
Not totally sure what we're doing. We gotta
not sure yet.
Reconvene over our little vacation from the podcast, and then we'll get right back into it and prepare for the next Oscars and the next Handies and the next complete year of film.
Yeah. That we will.
Oh, I just had a freak out moment where I thought GarageBand stopped recording, but it's still here. We're good. Just in time to say goodbye.
Oh, boy.
All right. Signing out for How Many Fingers the Podcast and for 2018 in film, I'm Mike.
I'm Joe.
And we'll see you next year.
Yeah, see you next year.
Already this year.
3 months into this year.
Yeah, see you later. Bye.